Hi, I'm Carisa and I'm here to talk to you about part of the research portion of our project. I'm not able to be here today, unfortunately, but this project is very important to me and I would love to see it actually implemented in our community. When our group came together, when the advocacy projects were assigned, it just so happened that right across the street at Cascade Lakes Brewing, there was a local social group for the LGBTQ community. So when we were talking about brainstorming for ideas for a project, I suggested that we go over and talk to some community members about what they thought might be helpful. I thought that we got a lot of good suggestions and information out of that trip. We were able to talk to a bunch of different people, and one of them, Chris Colazzo, who is a local trans activist and works with the Human Dignity Coalition here in Central Oregon, suggested implementing a curriculum to teach kids about social justice and diversity, and to teach about the members of the LGBTQ community in schools. Tolerance and just basic understanding of the issues is something that's sometimes lacking. So Chris suggested the Our Whole Lives curriculum, and we ended up choosing that as our project. In order for me to research, particularly in our community, whether there was a particular need or whether this was a practical possibility, I reached out to people that I knew and looked for decision makers and other people involved in the community working with kids and working specifically with kids connected to the LGBTQ population here. I spoke with the principal of Westside Village Magnet School, which my 8-year-old attends, and Westside Village is a school that has a reputation for really promoting diversity and teaching social justice, and she talked about the difficulty they've had in finding a similar curriculum. She is very passionate about the importance of it, but she said that really the main obstacle is parents. She said that in order to adopt any curriculum, to actually teach it school-wide would require the acceptance of parents, and there's a small contingent of generally religious parents who aren't open to teaching sexuality education in general, to teaching promoting diversity and social justice, and even mentioning inclusiveness for the LGBTQ population. This is something I've personally experienced, and my kids have both experienced in the Ben Lapine school system. And I reached out to a bunch of other parents and kids who were able to talk to me about what experience they had of diversity being taught, of their sexuality education in both middle and high school, and generally what the main feedback that I got from the kids was that the current curriculum is really teaching abstinence. It's not teaching anything specific about contraception or about safer sex, or it's teaching that in a very, very limited way at the discretion of the teacher. So this is a page from the textbook that talks about sexuality, and as you can see, it's completely focused on abstinence. In the interest of keeping it short, I'm not going to show you the entire abstinence-related content, but basically in the discussion of children's sexuality, it's completely limited to the importance of abstinence around that issue. In contrast, here is a page from the Our Whole Lives curriculum that shows sexuality in a much more inclusive and dynamic way. And one of the things that was important to me was I was able to speak with someone who's actually taught Our Whole Lives on a middle school level a couple of times, and is working on actually teaching it to younger kids. And she's done this privately, obviously not in the public school system. But one of the things she said was this isn't a curriculum that's just an advantage for kids that are members of the LGBTQ community or kids who are from some sort of diverse background. This curriculum is really advantageous to any child because they teach sexuality from this positive, accepting perspective, but it's not just about the sexuality. They teach diversity, they teach inclusion, they teach relationships and self-esteem in a really positive, affirming way. So it really is helpful for understanding emotional well-being and healthy relationships. And she really values it for that reason. And she also said that she would love to see this taught district-wide. However, she feels that there would be just such a huge objection from that contingent of parents that aren't open to sexuality education being taught in anything other than from an abstinence perspective. So as I continue to talk with parents and kids and also with educators, I reached out to a variety of other faculty and staff in public school systems, but I wasn't able to get a huge amount of response. But I really just got consistently, parents are concerned about kids because they have a negative experience, not because, in most cases, not because other children are targeting them because they're from same-sex families or because they identify as trans or gay, but the parents primarily told me that their concern was based on the fact that so many of the other kids were completely ignorant. So they didn't even know what it meant. They didn't understand that, in fact, it's completely legal for two people of the same gender to be married. They don't understand what transgender means or that there are people that identify that way. And so because they're not getting that basic information at home, when they encounter a kid that's different, they don't often have a very positive response, and they just directly invalidate their identity. Oh no, you can't be, well, that's not real, you're making that up, kind of a thing. So offering the OWL curriculum in schools isn't really about primarily combating hatred or direct open attacks, although there are some of those, and I did hear some stories of that kind of thing that goes on. But it's primarily just offering kids basic information about what's out there, that there are people of different orientations, that people identify with and understand gender in different ways, that's okay, that it's acceptable, that two women can marry each other, that two men can marry each other, that relationships look different, they don't all have to look the same. This is something that unfortunately right now in the Benton Pines School District isn't being offered as a standard curriculum. The textbook offers complete heteronormativity. It never mentions that there's anything other than a male and female relationship type. It only offers abstinence as a responsible. I was able to review the textbook that's currently used district-wide in high schools, and I wanted to show you a bit of a contrast. In my research, I was offered a huge amount of support and encouragement in this project and hoped that the project would be carried on because of its importance to the community. And I was actually really overwhelmed and encouraged by how many people were interested in being involved in implementation and in helping to. In fact, the one principal that I was able to talk to, Wendy Winchell at Westside Village, expressed interest in the OWL curriculum and told me that she'd like to be connected with someone who could teach her and the other decision makers at the school more about it. They would actually love to be able to find a way, if not as a blanket curriculum, as a program that could be offered as part of a GSA program during lunch or in after school in some capacity. because children in the past at the school had expressed a need for it. I was able to interview a few of the students about their current experience in school and what better education about social justice and more inclusive sexuality education might be able to do for them. It's not an easy topic for kids to talk about, and some of them are a little shy, but here's a few short clips.
All right, there you go.
Hi, I'm Emu, and today I'm going to be talking about transgender, gay, and lesbian people. And I know a lot of people think that girls can't marry girls and boys can't marry boys, but that it actually is true, and they can love each other. I was born a girl, and a couple years later, I was a boy, and then I went to school, and people made fun of me because I was wearing boys' underwear, but I had a girl's shirt on. And I think my school would be better if people taught that the teachers taught the kids about gay people and transgender people. And gay or transgender people are not different than anybody else. Trans people want friends.
I want people to understand my sisters like me and my mom do, because if they understand, then it would be much easier to life for me and I think my sisters, because they wouldn't have to be living in